Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Hopefully everybody is doing well. I haven't seen you guys in I don't know, I think it's been over a week now. So I missed you. Hopefully you missed me too. Hey Helena, hey Southeast Dusty. But hopefully everybody is doing good. It appears that we're past coronavirus. We're past the lockdowns. um, so maybe y'all are back in the streets, back to mostly life as normal. I don't know, but it seems like everybody has completely moved past that. It's so interesting. Hey Kim, it's so interesting to see y'all. I'm mind blown. The media never ceases to amaze me. To see them going from, oh my God, you're gonna kill your grandma if you walk to your mailbox, to these protests with millions of people are absolutely necessary. And so, you know, that may be opinions on other side, but I'm just like, man, the hypocrisy is absolutely glaring. So I don't know. It's just been a lot of crazy things going on. I don't even know where to start. I'm not going to be here for super long tonight. I just want to briefly talk to you guys about some things, and then hopefully we can get in our groove for the rest of this week. But hey to everybody coming into the room. Yay, Kim got her Hey Y'all mug. So I also have Hey Y'all mugs, and I should have brought one so I could show y'all. But I have one when I do my next live and from here on out. But I do have Hey Y'all mugs. On my Teespring as well. And then y'all know I have the Entertainers Are Not Leaders t-shirts as well. So y'all cop those and make sure you send me pictures so I can repost when you cop those as well. Also, let me go ahead and give a shout out to my patrons. Thank y'all so much for supporting my content, being a sponsor of Hey Y'all Tuesdays, and to my I cannot even think, y'all. My brain is going a million ways right now. And to my VIP sponsors, Michael Wright and Ray. Thank y'all so much. And Pilu said happy birthday month. Thank y'all. Thank y'all to everybody for the birthday wishes. I feel really special. Thanks to everybody that used that code to cop one of the Entertainers Are Not Leaders tees on my birthday as well. I appreciate y'all so much. So before we go into tonight, I want to tell y'all a little bit about the recent trip that I was just on. So some of you may already know, particularly if you're following me on Twitter and Instagram. I was recently in West Orlando, Florida for the Ambassador Academy training. This training is for 2A advocates, brand ambassadors, people that are gun competitors, just regular old firearm lovers, influencers, just so many different people who really care about arming and protecting themselves, and not only learning new ways to enhance those skills, but also how to share that message with other people. So that's where I was for the last week. It was a 5-day, very intense training. I've been sharing some of that with you guys on Instagram. My patrons have gotten to see some of the even more behind the scenes in-depth version of what I was doing while there. And I just have to say that this was one of the most intense and transformative experiences that I've possibly ever had in terms of learning so much in such a short amount of time. And so I would highly, highly recommend for people who would, could be sponsored to this event. Maybe you own a company. We had people who own different like ammunition companies there, or if you own a company, you can send your employees there. But just a lot of great information. I learned a lot. My family and friends are already super excited for me to share with them what I learned. And it's crazy because I was scrolling through.
Juneteenth, something that's been around since 1865.
It's crazy. Sorry about that. It's crazy because I was scrolling through my Instagram the other day and I saw this video of this lady in this parking lot, right? And these two guys, she was making groceries, and one guy distracts her, and another one walks around her car, and the other one gets into her back seat, and she gets into the car, and I'm assuming he grabs her, and then the second guy jumps into the car, and it's a super unfortunate situation. I don't know the entire story or what ended up happening to that young lady, but it looks like they possibly kidnapped her. And I just thought like how blessed and empowered I feel just even being in a position to be able to see something like that now and be able to blast off like, okay, these are some things she could have possibly done in that situation to avoid, escape, anything. And being in that position to know a little bit more now to hopefully keep myself safe and hopefully be an advocate, particularly for women going forward, because I've told y'all a little bit about my story in the past with like the hit and run and all that, and I'm not going to go back into it tonight. But I just didn't come from this culture or this background that was like protect yourself by any means necessary, or giving us the tools, or even making us think about that from certain standpoints. Because now with everything going on in the media, is people going missing, there are people being murdered. Like, you have to be safe, you have to care for yourself. We're in a time where people are aiming to defund the police, and we don't know if these things go into place. We can only imagine, right, some of the adverse effects from these things. And so you're ultimately going to be tasked possibly with being your first responder. So hopefully, I want to always remind people of that, and going forward, continue to share that message or whatever. But hello to everybody just coming into the room. Hopefully everybody is doing well. So let's go ahead and jump right into a couple of things that I want to talk about for tonight. The first one being that Twitter came out and announced that Juneteenth is now going to be a company holiday, right? So this is according to K Houston, I guess it's HOU, KHOU.com. These companies are giving, let's start here. This is the New York Post. Twitter announces Juneteenth is an official company holiday Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey announced Tuesday that moving forward, the company will celebrate Juneteenth as an official corporate holiday. The annual festival marks the date of June 19, 1865, when the abolition of slavery. New York Post, I'm going to need you to do better and not have these type of typos. But anyway, the abolition of slavery was announced in the state of Texas. The social network will observe the holiday forevermore, Dorsey tweeted, as will Square, the payment company at which he also serves as CEO. Dorsey said that June 19th will be a day for celebration, education, and connection for the companies, employees, and included a link to the official Juneteenth website with the history of the holiday. Dorsey's announcement arrived less than a week after he announced that he was donating $3 million to the charity run by Colin Kaepernick. So this just goes on to talk about this. Dorsey has led the charge in activism in big tech since the death of George Floyd at the hands of police officers, which set off a week of protests across the nation. Some other companies that are going to be looking forward to giving some of their employees time off and being very commemorative of Juneteenth includes, but not limited to, Adobe, Fifth Third Bank, Google, JCPenney, LendingTree, Lyft, MasterCard, the New York Times, and the NFL, and Nike. So if you don't know, June 19th is basically a holiday that commemorates the day that slaves in Galveston, Texas were notified by, I believe, Union soldiers that they were free. And so that is a celebration and has been a celebration in many inner cities for at least several years now. I myself attended a Juneteenth celebration, I think maybe 2 years ago. I think last year I was maybe traveling or something was going on. Anyway, but so you have all these companies that are going to come forward, and of course, why not take advantage of this moment that we are in right now? So I saw this girl retweet the post from Jack Dorsey, the Twitter guy, and was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I feel so special. I feel seen or something. I don't know what she tweeted, but it was something to that effect, right? So let me preface this by saying a day off work is always a good day. A day you can spend with your family and your family is also off work is always a good day. Any day that I can get with my family throughout the year that we're all off work and we can barbecue or hang out or go to the park or go fishing, whatever, I'm with it. Like, I'm down for it, whatever. I don't care, okay? I absolutely love family time. Y'all know how important my family is to me. But it's amazing to me how some people still can't see the play here. We are so enthralled by symbolism. I'm already dreading the think pieces that are going to come out from the blue check marks 5 to 10 years from now, talking about how Juneteenth was co-opted. Like, that's where we're headed. I seriously don't want to hear it. Like, bookmark this video. Okay? This is a very opportune time right now. I want people to realize that as unfortunate as the death of unarmed black men in these police brutality situations are. I really want people to see how this is a money-making scheme for a lot of people. Some people aren't going to want to realize this. You aren't going to want to accept it. You aren't going to want to admit it. There are not even to mention literally Black Lives Matter, the freaking organization itself. I just posted on Instagram the other day a video of Darren Seals, may he rest in peace, one of the original founders of Black Lives Matter, that was basically pushed to the side to promote and up these puppets to the forefront of this movement. This movement was co-opted, corrupted, and everything else. You have Juneteenth, which is an American holiday. People that don't know anything about the holiday, don't understand anything about the holiday, the celebration, or anything else, are trying to turn it into a Pan-African holiday when it's actually an American holiday. Okay, you have people changing the colors of the Juneteenth flag. You have people that are mixing up Juneteenth and the Tulsa race riots, which are two totally different things. A lot of people are just confused, and they can't they're trying to mask it behind their virtue signaling, and they're pandering. So now you have something, once again, that's very unique and sacred, that's probably most likely going to be corrupted and co-opted. Now, I'm always, don't misunderstand me, I'm always for people learning, right? Learning and being educated and knowledgeable. But y'all are about to let Walmart and Amazon and Twitter and NFL and NBA run off with this narrative. And for what? To be fake seen with their virtue signaling, which equates to dollars for these companies. That's money. They are on a money-making mission. The news, these corporations, do you know how easy it is to come out and give a "we stand with you"? I was looking for a dress online the other night, and I was on some website. I can't even remember the website, but all it said on the website was "we stand with you." That's it. Nothing else, no context. I'm like, wow, this is all it takes? Are people really that impressed and enthralled? So, I mean, enjoy the day off, but I just want people to be keen to what is going on. It's the hip thing. Every news cycle, right? When Black Lives Matter, and y'all know I've been talking about this for a while, because I was like, basically over here, we were like, where they been? Where the heck they been for the last 2 years? Where has Black Lives Matter been? They virtually disappeared. I've talked about it here. I posted about it on my Twitter. Actually, I think I might have something about Black Lives Matter pinned to my, and this was probably 6 months to a year ago, pinned to my Twitter, because I'm like, what the? They virtually just disappeared. An election cycle, boom. And now the media is putting these stories out back to back to back. So you have to ask yourself, right? And I told y'all early on, I think this was right. I can't remember if this was after my Arbery thing or after George Floyd. I think it was my Arbery, but I was like, watch. It's going to be like freaking floodgates. And now every other day, there's going to be a police brutality story in the media. So what you have to ask yourself is the media gatekeeping and not allowing these stories to get out any other time? Or do these type of things only happen during a certain time? And I'm willing to bet, I'm willing to bet it's the former. People want to give so many props to these news agencies in these companies, but freedom and justice is not a part-time job. It's not a part-time thing. Okay, if these news agencies aren't propping up people that are literally talking about protecting rights that we are supposed to have, civil rights, constitutional rights, I'm going to talk about a little about that tonight, then what the heck are they talking about? Right now, you have so many people chasing their tails, getting lost in the sauce. One of the things, this is so crazy. And this is going to take me into my next topic, right? You have all these news agencies that will cover these protests day in and day out. Day in and day out. Whichever way they're trying to make the protest look, whether they're trying to make it look either super freaking peaceful, like nothing bad is going on, or everything bad is going on, right? Now, you have people coming forth to talk about actual legislation. You have Donald Trump that comes out with an executive order. And now your media time starts to decrease and shrink. Why is that? Do people care about these questions? And that's why, if you are not standing on the actual principles of what we're talking about, this is a freaking civil rights issue, and we're gonna talk about how in a bit. But if you are not talking about the principle of these issues, you're going to be swayed and whisked away into hashtags and fields of nothingness. Chasing your tail, talking about, I don't even know. Let me see what else I said in my post the other day. I just want people to understand that there are corporations, there are people, y'all faves, blue chicks that y'all look up to. There are news agencies that have no invested interest in seeing things peaceful. They have no invested interest in seeing things resolved. They have no invested interest in seeing y'all have nice, productive lives. They don't. The media fetishizes bloodthirst, death, violence. That's how they make their money. And I mean, at some point, we have to blame ourselves. Why are we so enthralled with those stories? Why does, when an unarmed black man is killed by a police officer, the freaking media goes off the hinges? This is a probably $1 trillion industry that we're talking about. Some of your faves would be out of a job if this wasn't happening. This is why they don't get y'all to focus on legislation. They only want you talking about hashtags. They only want you running in circles. They don't want you to understand anything about the legislation. The Senate Judiciary Committee does a brief today, talking about police force. How many news agencies covered it? How many of your faves talked about it? How many of them shared the link, told you anything about it? How many of the news agencies even projected it live? I just happened to be searching for something else on YouTube today, and I just happened to roll across it. And Fox News covered it. Thank you, Jupiter Black. Levon. Fox News covered it. I don't watch Fox News. I just happen to be looking for something else. And do we understand the level of tragedy that is? You have a media that wants you to be committed and involved in the protesting, whether they're sitting at home watching or leaving your couch to protest, to scream in the streets, to be mad, to be angry. But then you're hell pressed to find your freaking legislators talking about change. Why is that? Why is that? So we can talk about and be enthralled and be involved with the reaction as reactionaries. But when it comes to actual solutions, you're hard freaking pressed to find a media talking about it. They're going to give it a 3-minute segment. Why is that? Because they're not invested in it changing. It changing a peaceful life for me and you doesn't equal money. I want people to see this, understand this, and accept this. So we are going to have to do the legwork. They don't care about you. A lot of these people don't have the same interests as you. They just don't. I hate to break it down like that. So let's talk about this executive order that Trump signed today. Trump signs police reform executive order that he said will encourage police departments to adopt higher standards related to the use of force and de-escalation training. These standards will be as high and as strong as there is on earth. The order will prioritize federal funding for police departments that seek independent credentialing that certifies that they meet certain criteria, which Trump said would include a ban on chokeholds, except if an officer's life is at risk. Trump added that the administration is researching less lethal weapons for law enforcement officers to use. Police departments will also have to share information about misconduct so that officers with issues can't jump from one department to the next. It's the first time the president delivered a proposal related to police reform since nationwide calls for justice after the death of George Floyd. Floyd died after a police officer in Minneapolis knelt on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. We need to bring law enforcement and communities closer together, not drive them apart. Trump said there is a tiny number of bad police officers, but that the overwhelming majority of police officers are good. We will have reform without undermining our many great and extremely talented law enforcement officers. Okay, so this goes on to say some of the orders in the executive action could require approval from Congress, where lawmakers are working on their own police reform packages. So let me be clear about this executive order. So I was actually, one of the things we had to do at this academy, Ambassador Academy training that I was at, is we had to practice doing interviews with friendly media and hostile media. And one of the questions posed to me was about what's going on right now with the unrest and just what we're seeing and my thoughts on legislation. So I do think, whether we believe it or not, a lot of this is going to have to happen on the state level. I don't particularly think that this legislation goes far enough, or what I would like to see, and I'm going to talk about that in a second as well. However, when I was researching this online, trying to find more information about it, you literally have media that is, you have media that is wording this, an executive order that addresses police form. You have media that is wording it as Trump says most police are good, or this, just whatever, right? Takes a small part of his speech, doesn't even tell you the most important thing we need to know: executive order, police reform. Now, why would they do that? Right? Even if you don't think this bill goes far enough, or whatever your personal belief about this bill may be, what reason do they have to do that? It is my personal belief, when you have people all over their country that are so freaking upset that businesses are being burnt down, and you basically turn around and tell us people don't even have the right to know what is going on in the legislative process right now, that's basically the what they're signaling to us. Forget the actual legislation that can make people even for a second think, well, hey, maybe something's going to be resolved. Maybe something could happen here. Let's talk about all of the Congress people, the legislators coming to put forth bills now. This may be important. This may, be important to people burning things down right now, protesting in the streets. They don't think we're worthy of knowing this. I don't give a crap how you feel. Education is important. You deserve to know, okay? I deserve to know what's going on. So that's the executive order today that people are barely even talking about, as millions of people are still protesting in the streets, as buildings are still being burned down, but we don't think they deserve to even know about it, or we're definitely not going to frame it like what it actually is. Now, why this executive order is important is because I think in similar ways to what we saw with the criminal justice reform, I feel as if sometimes these things that may be unpopular with Republicans, right? Because it's the super law and order, and I'm not gonna pretend like Trump is not super law and order either. But I think that he kind of steps out there to maybe have some of these other people come to the table. Okay, so that's exactly what we saw with the criminal justice bill, the First Step Act. You had a lot of Republicans that were trying, not to address this bill, wanted to vote against this bill. And then Trump comes out and says, hey, I'm cool with it. I'm endorsing it. I want other people to come step to the table. Let's make this a bipartisan thing. And then that happens. So now you literally have Ayanna Pressley, Nancy Pelosi. You have Justin Amish. You have Tim Scott. This I just named Democrats, Republicans, and all independents working on bills right now. Okay, people deserve to know this. So this is a bipartisan issue. My particular thing that I'm leaning towards, I think I've already mentioned this before, ending qualified immunity. Okay, that's where I'm at with it. That's the bill that Justin Amash, I don't know what I just call him, Justin Amash is pushing for. So I'm going to talk about this as well a little bit, and how the media is completely ignoring this and is ignoring what's happening. And the crazy part about it is, and this is why it's so frustrating to me, if people actually knew what was going on in the legislative process, they knew the actual things to focus on, they could hone in and really support the legislation they want to see. But a lot of people are moving off hashtags, right? Defund the police. Okay, what does that even mean? That means, from what I've seen, 100 different things to 100 different people. But when you have somebody like Justin Amish that comes through, Amash, I'm saying his name wrong, but y'all know who I'm talking about. when you have somebody that comes through and this is a very specific thing and it's very easily understood, the media doesn't talk about it. People can't get behind it. People that are more likely to support that than a blanket, oh, let's defund the police. Like, do y'all see where I'm going with this? So the media is very complicit and it's their gatekeeping. They don't want people to be informed. They don't want you to be educated, because then you can actually put more pressure on these legislators and help move some of the things through that you want to see. So let's talk about these. With one Republican co-sponsor, Representative Justin Amish Gaines, tripartisan support to end qualified immunity. Tripartisan, okay? Republican, I think he's a libertarian / independent, and Democrats. For the first time in U.S. congressional history, a bill has support from a libertarian, Democratic, Republican coalition of lawmakers. The Ending Qualified Immunity Act seeks to squash a legal doctrine that allows public officials to violate your civil rights with impunity if those rights have not yet been clearly established by pre-existing case law. It is the sense of the Congress that we must correct the erroneous interpretation of Section 1983, which provides for qualified immunity, and reiterate the standard found on the face of the statute. The bill reads, which does not limit ability on the basis of the defendant's good faith beliefs or on the basis that the right was not clearly established at the time of the violation, okay? Representative Tom signed on to co-sponsor. I just know I'm gonna mess up these people's name. Joining Representative Ayanna Priestley and a lengthy list of other Democratic legislators who support the legislation. The death of George Floyd, the unarmed black man who was killed by a former Minneapolis police officer, Derek Chauvin, prompted the Republican lawmaker to back the bill. And so I recently saw Tim Scott come out and say, you know, this is off the table for him and a few Republicans, okay? But being informed, knowing what's going on, gives people an opportunity to not only understand this legislation, but be able to reach out to their representatives and say, what the heck is your stance on this, okay? So, today, there was like I said, a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing where they were talking about not only qualified immunity, right, and possibly bringing more understanding or clarification to Section 1983, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But so much good information that had I not randomly been scrolling YouTube, I would have not even been privy to. How is that fair when millions of people are in the streets and people are burning the country down because of these specific issues? Specific enough to cover riots for days and hours on end. Not specific enough to cover actual legislation that could possibly resolve or at the very least ease some of these tensions. Like, I just want people to know. I just want people to know we're being played here. So let's look at this, because this was a really good explanation of this. Where is my share? So this is U.S. Code 1983. Every person who, under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia, subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at lawsuit, in equity, or other proper proceedings for redress, except that in any action brought against a judicial officer for an act or omission taken in such officer's judicial capacity, injunctive relief shall not be granted unless a declaratory decree was violated or declaratory relief was unavailable. So let me kind of break this down a little bit. All right. So Section 1983 was enacted in April 20th, 1871 as part of the Civil Rights Act of 1871 and is also known as the Ku Klux Klan Act because one of its primary purposes was to provide a civil remedy against the abuses that were being committed in southern states, especially by the Ku Klux Klan. While the existing law protected all citizens in theory, its protection in practice was unavailable to some because of those persons charged with the enforcement of the laws were unable or willing to do so. The act was intended to provide a private remedy for such violations of federal law and has subsequently been interpreted to create a species of tort liability. The number of cases that have been brought under Section 1983 has dramatically increased since 1961 when the Supreme Court decided Monroe versus Vate. In Monroe, the Supreme Court held that a police officer was acting under color of state law, even though his actions violated state law. This was the first case in which the Supreme Court allowed liability to attach where a government official acted outside of the scope of authority granted to him by state law. Okay? Since Monroe versus Vate was decided, excuse me, y'all, an extensive body of law has developed to govern Section 1983 claims. This article is intended to provide an overview of that extensive body of law and will include seminal precedent for the United States Supreme Court and 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Only persons under the statute are subjected to liability. Let me see. Okay, so let me read this part. Who under color of state law? The traditional definition of acting under the color of state law requires that the defendant have exercised power possessed by virtue of state law and made possible only because the wrongdoer is clothed with the authority of state law. And such actions may result in liability, even if the defendant abuses the position given to him by the state. A private actor may also act under color of state law under certain circumstances. For example, it has been held that a physician who contracts with the state to provide medical care to inmates acts under the color of state law. So this basically just goes on to talk about that, and it's another part that I wanted to read to y'all. Courts have determined that the undercolor of clause, and this is why what they were talking about today is so freaking important and why people need to know this, okay? So courts have determined that the undercolor of clause requires that wrongdoer qualify at least in some sense, as a representative of the state when depriving the victim of civil rights. In a nutshell, the clause refers to people who misuse some kind of authority that they get from state law. Police officers who use excessive force generally fit this bill. Okay, judges can consider a number of factors to decide whether, when violating someone's federal rights, an officer was acting under the color of state law. So this includes anybody on duty wearing a police uniform or using police equipment. So basically, a judge can decide whether somebody is worthy of violating your federal rights, your constitutional rights, your civil rights because of this clause under the color of state law. And this is what the heck they were talking about. A civil rights issue that was put in place to protect people from Klan members that were not, you had authorities who were not holding people responsible for acting as a Klan, being vigilantes and doing all these other things. And you had these laws and protections put into place to protect people, protect their civil rights, protect their constitutional rights. But then you have a clause that's like, oh, well, hey, hell, if he got on a uniform, he may be allowed to violate your civil and federal rights. So this is what the Senate Judiciary Committee is literally talking about today. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. I wasn't even able to catch all of it. And I learned so much in that small time of watching it. CNN doesn't talk about it. Your favorite blue check doesn't talk about it. None of the blog sites are talking about it. They'll talk about the riots. You're going to see the video surfacing of the girls twerking at the protests. Can we get some balance here? Can we care about legislation? Can we care about the principle of the issue here? I'm a civil rights, constitutional rights type of person. If anything is going against that, I'm not with it. That's just what it is. And so these ideas, why I said I don't think that some of the things that's being mentioned now, as far as like, oh, we're just going to ban chokeholds, and why I don't think some of those things go far enough is because not only do these officers literally still have this qualified immunity, but in areas, if I remember correctly, particularly with Eric Garner, the chokehold was banned. So the fact of the matter, if you aren't actually having real consequences for the actions that some of these people are taking, some of these corrupt officers are taking, that's problematic. All of the cutesy, oh, we'll just make a registry. No. Like, so people want to focus on all these bells and whistles. And then when it comes to how they are being forced to interpret the law or actual consequences, it's silent. The media is dead silent. It's a freaking blackout. So excuse me for feeling like they intentionally have people chasing their tails, have them focusing on stuff that doesn't freaking matter, have them focusing on stuff that may possibly have unintended consequences, adverse effects. Some people are saying defund the police and put the money into the school systems. Have y'all worked in the schools? Do you know how long it sees? Do you know how long it can take to see the return of your investment into a growing child? Y'all think just throwing money and don't even get me started into the money laundering and the disappearing money in the first place. Don't even have me going there. But people just need to really think some of these ideas out as far as the actual consequences, as far as short term and long term. People thinking you can just take money and put it into the school system. It takes time to see those investments. You're not going to do that in a year and be like, oh, this was totally worth it. No, especially kids coming from troubled homes, coming from troubled backgrounds. You're talking about kids in some of these bad schools in these inner cities that need a lot of help, a lot of money, a lot of stuff. Those are long investments, which I don't see anything wrong with, right? We do need to invest more in education because unfortunately, a lot of these schools are subpar. I've talked about this before. Y'all know how I feel about the education system. And so I'm totally on board for putting more money in the schools, but that's not the quick response answer that people are thinking that it is. Thank you, Anthony. And so my biggest thing is getting people to see, do y'all really think these companies, these media agencies, even your favorite, you can even name your favorite media personality, right? Do we really think that they are truly down for the advancement of these communities? Do we really think that? Do we really think that? Do we really think they would get any airtime to actual real-time advancement? They don't. That's why they're not talking about the things that I'm talking about tonight. Some of these things y'all maybe already know. Some of these things we may be learning together. They don't give a crap. They don't make money off the advancement of you. But this thing, they've spent years learning how to propagandize the media. What makes us react? What makes us mad? What makes us click? What makes us view? So you have to be committed to your knowledge. You have to be committed to being informed. You have to be committed to advancement. And it's so many grifters. It's so much grifting going on right now. Do y'all realize some of these people would not have a freaking job if it weren't for the death of unarmed Black men? They would not have a job. They wouldn't have a career. Why do we stand these people that keep the same freaking talking points on a cycle? If your fave has the same talking points that they did 2 and 3 years ago, thank you, Black Introvert. Black Introvert said, "What's up, Rhonda?" Emmanuel said, "Rhonda, police are a local problem. They take their orders from the local politicians. The community must elect change, which can't be legislated. Stop voting Democrat and see what happens." So I do agree that policing is a local problem. I do agree with that. I do agree a lot of this is going to have to be handled on local levels. I also agree with the fact that in a lot of these areas, particularly like in Minneapolis, right, where you have all these Democratic politicians in these offices, seems to be some of the places where we see this happening. And I've even mentioned on Twitter before, I said for freaking New York City to be one of the most liberal places, it has some of the most disgusting police practices that I've had the displeasure of seeing on film. However, to act like, overall, this is just a Democrat problem, and Republicans can't just be as law and order, and as if Republicans don't make excuses for a lot of the civil rights and constitutional violations that goes on. This just not true. It's just not true. And that's why you thankfully having people right now in Congress trying to make this a bipartisan and tripartisan issue. Now, something that I think is super interesting, and I'm going to do some research into this, right? I think the difference, because a lot of times people will say, oh, look at Minneapolis. Right? A Democrat governor, Democrat mayor, Democrat this, Democrat that. And they'll say, this is how you're voting. But I also want people to look at the fact of, we know that notoriously, oftentimes, you have a lot of these liberal media agencies who like to use emotional capital as well. So I feel like that could also be a part of the problem that people don't want to look at. So let me put it in another way. You have liberal media and people in liberal areas that are more likely to make these stories go viral in the first place anyway. Whereas you have these other cities, these other states that feel like, and I've heard people say this out of their own mouth, well, police only killed this X amount of people anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Why would we put that on the news? Why would we talk about it anyway? So I think that's something that also needs to be looked at. I don't think we can deny or underestimate how these stories are being pushed in certain areas for a reason. It doesn't necessarily automatically mean it doesn't happen in other areas. It's just not true. So Helena said we can't have two parties anymore. Our founders stated it would be a horrible idea. When I tell y'all, I'm so like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And this is why I tell people, you just can't blindly vote for somebody and be like, okay, go do your thing now. You're on my winning team. No, you have to be aware and look at what these people are actually doing and how they're voting. We can't assume. And a lot of the times they're pushing really redundant or even ridiculous legislation, and the media gatekeeps. We don't know about it. And then, the things that probably don't even matter in the grand scheme of things, we're hit with it, we're bombarded with it over the head. So we can't discount for a moment how the media uses certain narratives or makes certain things go viral and when and why and how they do it. And that's why I'm a freaking principle person, right? So I don't care if you have a Mike Bloomberg or a Donald Trump that comes out and supports stop and frisk. You have a Democrat and a Republican that comes out and supports stop and frisk. I'm going to go, no, like I'm not with that. We're talking constitutional violations. We're talking civil rights violations. And so until people get that, we're going to get more of this. And people can get away with so much, not doing anything, hiding their hands because of that, oh, I'm hiding behind my party type thing. So, but all right, y'all. So that's really all I want to talk about tonight. Hey, Brooke. But some of y'all already know the game. Y'all already know what's up. You already know we're gonna get a lot more of the, I think Helena said rage stories or something like that. Rage clicks. We're gonna get a lot of that going into the election cycle. It's very unfortunate that a lot of people are gonna get caught in the hamster wheel. You're gonna get caught on an emotional roller coaster that is gonna whisk you away from the important things right now. It's not arguing over hashtags. It's not trying to convince somebody that you matter. It's the freaking legislation that's happening right now when somebody says we are literally saying, do we need to go back and address how this, what was it? Who under color of state law? Maybe we should go back and address how this could deny people their actual freaking civil rights that we put in place, their actual constitutional rights. So don't get whisked away on the narratives. I've kind of been on and off Twitter, people getting on my nerves. You got the gender wars, you got the other people trying to attach themselves to everybody else's movement, everybody movement being co-opted, people running off with narratives, stuff becoming a twerk fest and what's that other dance, line dances, and I just don't have the emotional capacity to deal with it. I don't have the emotional capacity to feel, oh my God, Twitter sees me for letting me off for Juneteenth. Thank you. Like, if y'all don't get out of here, they are about to get everybody else that jumps on board. These people are about to get so many advertisement dollars. I'm telling y'all, just wait. Give it about 3 to 5 years. They're gonna be selling the little stoves that Nancy Pelosi them was kneeling in. Man, these people, it's gonna be like Valentine's Day. People gonna be out here buying, capitalism. That's the name of the game. I mean, can I blame them? No. Honestly, that's what they're there to do. But if you can't see it for what it is, if you can't realize their ultimate goal is to make money. Do you think of freaking Amazon? I don't know if Amazon is. I think Amazon did a "we're with you" statement. But you of course Amazon is with you. Of course Amazon wants you to protest and burn down buildings. You don't think Amazon wants more of that market share? People out here calling themselves freaking anti-capitalist and you supporting small businesses being burnt down and all that market share about to go right to Amazon and other corporations. I mean, people, people just don't. So of course they gonna come out with a statement. Oh, come spend your dollars here. Because we stand with you. I mean, I'm just not impressed. That's just me, though. Maybe I'm the party pooper. I don't know. I don't like to be that person. I'm sorry if y'all want to go get y'all kente cloth from Amazon on Juneteenth with your 20% Juneteenth discount. I mean, go for it. Who am I to rain on your parade? You know what I'm saying? So hey. But all right, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Thank you again to everybody that super chatted. Thank you so much to my patrons. Thank you so much to my VIP patrons, Michael Ray and Ray Ray. Thank y'all to everyone that supports me, that's bought your Entertainers Are Not Leaders shirt. I have some more merch coming out soon that I'm super excited about. And as always, I enjoy y'all, and I'm so happy to be back. And thank y'all for rocking with me this Tuesday. And y'all have a good night. Bye.